All right, so we are going to be looking at a surface area of prisms. And so in order to do that, we're going to need to think this through here. A prism is a three-dimensional figure that has two congruent faces that lie in parallel planes. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult to fully comprehend without seeing an object, but I'll go ahead and try to draw some things along the way. But first of all, I want you to know that congruent means same size and shape. And when we say that they're parallel planes, is where the bases lie, the idea is if I have a plane up here, and I draw another plane down here, and these two planes do not intersect, these two planes then are what we would call parallel. And what I could do is I could draw a rectangle up here, and have a rectangle down here, and if those two rectangles have the same size and same shape, then what I can do is I can connect the corners, or the vertexes, of the bases, and this would be a prism right here. And so what you need to know is that the lateral faces are the faces that aren't the top and the bottom. So in this diagram, if you look here, the pieces that would be in blue, I can do it this way here. Let me get, I think I have a highlighter, yep, markup. So if I do a highlighter here, whoops, oh, freehand highlighter, there we go. If I do this stuff here, this is a lateral face. This back here, that's a lateral face. Whereas up here on top, this is a base, and down here on the bottom, this is a base. So lateral faces are going to be parallelograms, and this figure up on the top can be any two congruent faces. So types of prisms. We name the prism by two properties, the shape of the base and whether the lateral faces are perpendicular or not. So for instance, shape of the base in our case today, we're just going to be working with rectangular prisms. Rectangular prisms means that our bases are going to be rectangles, and the lateral faces are perpendicular or not. If they're perpendicular, we call them right. In other words, they'll stand up straight. If we say that they're not perpendicular, then we call them oblique. Oblique is a fancy word for slanted. So one more time, the lateral faces are not on top or bottom, and if the lateral faces are straight up and down, the figure's right. If the lateral faces are slanted, then it's oblique. So trying to draw a three-dimensional figure on two-dimensional paper is difficult. So what we do is we draw a net. A net is a prism, a net of a prism is a two-dimensional picture of a prism. So what we do is we draw all of our lateral faces in a row. Now if you think this through here for a moment, up here you can see that there'd be one lateral face, the face that's facing us, two, the one on the left, the one on the right, three, the one on the left, and then four, the one in the back. So I'm going to draw those out here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so you can see here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are lateral faces. Now, the other thing we can do though is we can put our top up here and our bottom down here. What I'd like you to understand though is that the top could go any of these spots up here and the bottom could go any of these spots down here. But for convenience, I will keep them the same throughout all of our pictures. So the surface area of a figure is the sum of all the faces of the prism. In other words, a surface area will equal the area of the bases plus the area of the sides, plus the front and the back. If you were to use variables, you could do 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. So most of us are probably not quite yet to that point, so what we'll do is we'll keep this simple and we'll just do a regular net. So if we look here, I'm going to call this the top in blue and this the bottom in blue down here, which means when I go to draw my lateral faces, 1, 2, 3, I look here, this 13 would describe the height of that prism. And then the two numbers that describe each of the rectangles are 8 and 19 and 8 and 19. So grabbing a calculator because we're going to need to do some calculator work here, so give me a moment. There we go. We need a top and a bottom as well. The top and the bottom are also going to be the same, and since I put it on where there's a 19, if I look, this blue one right here has 19 and 8, so this is going to be an 8 out here, and this will be a 19 and an 8 out here. So now if we look, I'm going to look at my rectangles and find the area of rectangles. This first rectangle that I've marked with an X is an 8 by 13 rectangle. But there's also another 8 by 13 rectangle. And since I have two 8 by 13s, I can go 2 times 8 times 13. So 2 times 8 times 13 gives us 208. So the amount of surface area given by those two rectangles is 208 units squared. Then we come back here, we got 13 by 19, and we also have a 13 by 19 there. So we've got two 13 by 19s. So we can go 2 times 13 times 19, and that's 494. Last but not least, we've got this guy up here, and this guy down here. And those are both 8 by 19, and since there's two of them, we'll multiply both of them by 2. So we go 2 times 8 times 19, which gives us 304. Now we're not done. What we need to do to finish this problem is to add all the areas together. So we grab a calculator and we're going to go 208 plus 494 plus 304. So 208 plus 494 plus 304 gives us 1,006 square units. The next problem is basically the same thing. So we're going to start again. We start by drawing our lateral surface area, and this time I'll use this up here as my top and this down here is my bottom. So I'm looking at 11 by 17 being the top and bottom dimensions. So that means the 7 is going to be the height. So I throw the 7 down, and we go 11, 17, 11, and 17. Then I need the top, and so the top is a 17 by 7, and the bottom is also, a 17 by 11. Sorry about that. Whoopsie. This eraser, okay, there we go. This should be an 11 by 17, and this is also an 11 by 17. So now to come over here and do our math, we're going to do this one here and this one here. Those are both 7 by 11, so 7 times 11, and then that's multiplied by 2. Then this guy here is going to be a 7 by 17. And then this guy up here is going to be a 17 by 11, and there's 2 of those. So away we go. 2 times 7 times 11 is 154. 2 times 7 times 17 is 238. and then 2 times 17 times 11 is 374. And again, what we do then is we add all three of these numbers together. 154 plus 238 plus 374. And that gives us 766 units squared. So this is how we find the surface area. Sorry about that. This is how we find the surface area of a right rectangular prism.